The Auburn Tigers and the Baylor Bears. One of the most important games this season in the non-conference for really anyone. We're going to prove the Big 12 is better than the mighty SEC, or will Auburn, who's supposed to be just an okay team, if that, in the SEC, will they be able to topple the Baylor Bears and prove the depth of the conference in the Southeastern Conference is better than us? Auburn projected 8th in their league by Pick 6 previews. The Baylor Bears projected 3rd in the Big 12, and I think the Tigers are in for, honestly, a thrashing. The 11th best quarterback room in the SEC, 10th best running back room, and their trenches aren't even that good. 9th on the defensive line spot, 11th in linebackers. None of that screams good to me.
Yeah, I do worry that the trenches might still be better than Baylor's, but the other two, for sure, advantage Baylor. I actually talked about this with Locked On Auburn host Zach Blackerby on my show the other day. We did a little crossover, and he thinks the opposite. He thinks Auburn has such a good roster. He just thinks they have a better top-to-bottom roster. And I look, and I'm like, the receivers are good. Okay, they brought in some good receivers this year. Baylor's got a pretty good receiving core. They've got an NFL tight end.
It's first in the Big 12 versus first in the SEC per Pick 6 previews on wide receivers and tight ends.
Love that, by the way. I think Baylor has 2 of the top 4 or 5 running backs in the conference, 2 of them. And I think the best quarterback in the conference. And that's where we can see a big divide here. I know it's not a one-man game, but if it's ever going to be a one-man game, that man is going to be quarterback. And you've got on one hand, Sawyer Robertson, not good enough for the Locked On Top 100, but good enough to be the best returning QBR quarterback in America. And for my money, one of the 3 or 4 best returning quarterbacks in the country, versus a guy in Jackson Arnold whose coach is telling his teammates to take it easy on him in practice because he needs some confidence going into this game. Like that is way like almost been buried the last week or so. That's a huge deal. The coach literally, like, DJ Durkin, all right, please don't pick him off every time. Like I really need him to have some confidence going into this game. And as I said with Zach too, it's not like they're going into the Horseshoe or the Big House or something like that. But they are going into a true road game that's going to be a sellout in Waco. That's going to be a big environment for Jackson Arnold to come in with a whole new arsenal of receivers and a new play caller for a kid who has zero confidence. That's where I think it can really swing. If Baylor can get a couple turnovers, which they didn't do very much of last year, but if they can turn over Jackson Arnold a few times, who is prone to turnovers, then Baylor could run away with this. I see that vision entirely. Baylor can force a couple turnovers there, which they've struggled with in the past, but Jackson Arnold loves to turn it over. If they could do that, like they can run away with this game. They really can. I don't think it's that crazy. Yes, a question in the back.
Baylor has the number 1 wide receiver and tight end core in the Big 12. Auburn has the same for the SEC. Who is the person responsible with getting the small round ball to the number 1 receiving core in their conferences?
It's a good question. Goes from the center to the quarterback. You heard of this?
And unless we're running those jet sweeps that worked so well in college football 25, the unstoppable jet sweep, unless you're running that every play, like a UCF with KJ Jefferson, shout out Gus Malzahn. Unless you're doing that, Jackson Arnold's going to have to throw the ball forward. And I fear that's where things may go awry in McLean.
This is Jonah Hill in Moneyball. Jackson Arnold's a great quarterback. His defect, Billy, is he's not great at throwing the ball to his own team. You want to talk about a kid whose mature or not maturity, whose confidence just was shot through the ground at Oklahoma last year with a mediocre play caller, didn't have good receivers, didn't have good protection. It'll be obviously a little bit better at Auburn this year, but maybe Hugh Freeze is right. Maybe they do need to get him some confidence, or else it's just going to be as brutal as it was in Oklahoma last year, which was awful. So yeah, advantage Sawyer Robertson, advantage Baylor big time. This is going to be a true road game, like in a sold out atmosphere in the Power 4, week 1 of no preseason, week 1 with these new receivers and these teammates that are having to take it easy on you. That's not going to be so, you're not going to be so lucky when it comes to the Baylor defensive backs and the Baylor pass rushers. It's just kind of a lot to put on Jackson Arnold's plate game 1 at Auburn when clearly his confidence has been shot through the ground by playing at Oklahoma. That's what OU will do for you, to the point where his coach is telling his teammates to take it easy on him. Like, that's going to be a good atmosphere, man. It's going to be sold out. The line's going to be right behind the visitors' bench. Like, that is something that Jackson Arnold's going to have to deal with week 1.
I know this was a question that we had brought up, and even Zach Blackerby has talked about. If we just take the quarterbacks out of it, if the quarterbacks no longer exist, you have 10 men on offense, then where does Baylor have the ultimate advantage to win?
That becomes tougher, I will say, if you take the quarterbacks out of it. But I think Baylor still has pretty good protection across the board. And I think they've got 2 really good running backs. Like, not just a workhorse, not, a good guy to come in on a pinch. Like, Bryson Washington and Dawson Pendergrass are 2 of the top 4 or 5 running backs in this conference. And you have a legit NFL tight end in Michael Trigg. So there's still weapons there. I know everyone oozes over, Auburn's transfer portal pickups at the receiver position, and they're all really good. But let's not act like Baylor's just Sawyer Robertson and a bunch of schmucks. They still have a pretty good arsenal, and they do have 11 players. They do also have Sawyer Robertson. So
they do. That's probably going to help them in the matchup against Auburn. I think Baylor can run away with this game. If that's the sentence, Baylor can blow out Auburn. How did we get to that conclusion?
Jackson Arnold throwing the ball all over the place. Turning them over. Like, that's what it'll take. I think Baylor's going to have a good offensive day because I think they're a really, really good offensive team. I think they're potentially a great offensive team. I think they've got an excellent quarterback, obviously running back, receiver, tight ends we just talked about, and we've got a top 10 offensive coordinator in America calling plays for them. So I think they're going to get their points. I think where it becomes a laugher is if for the first time in 3 years or so, Baylor's defense can start forcing some turnovers, getting some picks, ripping the ball out. The old take 3 mentality. Boy, it's good to hear the take 3 mentality back. If Baylor can force a couple turnovers, maybe, I don't know, dare I say, win the turnover battle, they will win this game comfortably.
Dave Aranda. Hugh Freeze. Who do you take in that matchup?
Yes, this is probably the toughest matchup of the entire game because it's such a toss.
But both are perfectly capable of sabotage. They're great. They can be great at sabotage. They can also win for some reason.
Yes, they can sabotage and they can game plan. See, this is the problem. And I think they're both really great coaches Sunday through Friday. Like, the way they've built up these programs back through recruiting. Obviously, it took Dave a little bit longer than Hugh Freeze. They're sometimes darlings in the media. They've hit the portal well the last few years. They've recruited well the last few years. But they play the games on Saturdays, and neither one is a sure thing on Saturdays. I am going to go with Dave Aranda in this matchup because I still think there's room for an Aranda masterclass defensive game plan. And when you go up against, a quarterback with downed confidence, playing with new receivers and a new coach, and you give Dave Aranda 8 months to prepare a scheme for that, I'm going to give slight edge to my guy, un-PC Dave Aranda.
Dirty Dave, who had to apologize for saying the things that he said. Coming up, let's go Joey McGuire, hot seat. Locked on Big 12, Locked on Baylor.